Good morning. This is a special meeting of the Board of Fire Commissioners. The date is Tuesday, May 5th at about 9:07 a.m. Can we have a roll call?
Ibarra.
Here.
Glazier.
Here.
Hara. Hold on. Dr. Hara.
Here.
Thank you. Ninberg.
Here.
Woods Gray.
Here.
Our Chief Terrazas.
He's muted.
One moment. Let me find him.
Here.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, great.
City Attorney Rafish is also present.
Here. Thank you.
Great. Now flag salute and moment of silence.
I'll lead everybody in the flag salute. I have a flag in my office. If you'd please join me and stand. Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence in honor of past and present members of the Los Angeles City Fire Department who devoted their lives to the protection of their community. Thank you.
Thank you. We start with the report of the, this is an abbreviated meeting because it's special, so we go straight to report of the fire chief.
Thank you, Madam President. In terms of events, it's been pretty much COVID-19 24/7. We have had a aggressive messaging component within our department. We've had multiple videos trying to keep our members, the public, and others informed of what we're doing. On April 8th, we released a telemedicine video. As you all know, we've been working on that project for well over a year, and we finally put it into practice about 2 weeks ago. We're averaging anywhere from 6 to 12 calls per 10-hour period. It's on a 410 schedule, and we're looking at expanding that in the future. On April 9th, we had an accelerated graduation of recruit class 19-1. We did observe social distancing. We did graduate 49 recruits that hit the field the following Sunday. On April 21st, I did a Fox public service announcement with Rob Lowe, who plays a firefighter on one of their shows. That was intended to spread the message about the importance of social distancing and to take precautions. On April 22nd, we filmed a videotape of to suffice for our magnet graduation. We're going to bring all the high schools together and do a ceremony in mass, but because of all these social distancing restrictions, we decided to do a video instead. And lastly, we did an Instagram COVID-19 update. We've done about 3 or 4 of those, very well received, and we'll continue to do that for as long as we're under the social distancing requirements. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda items.
Madam President, if I could just interrupt, you should probably inquire whether there's any public comment relative to the chief's report
okay.
at this time before we move on.
Great. Is there any public comment relative to the chief's report?
I see a hand raised. I'm not sure what item it's raised for.
Do we know who the hand is?
If Ms. Gomez could possibly click and inquire what item that individual would like to provide comment on.
Good morning. Is this President Ibarra?
Yes, I'm here. Who's
Yes,
speaking?
this is Chief Moore, Assistant Chief Moore with the Chief President of the Chief Officers Association. I do not have public comment in regards to this item. It would be to item 3B.
Okay.
3D? Okay, 3B? Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. I'll keep that in mind. Is there anybody else? So at this point, no. So no comments with regards to report of the fire chief. So we'll move on to the consent agenda items.
Move to adopt the, this is Commissioner Glazier, move to adopt the recommendations for items 2A through 2F.
Do I have a second?
Great second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. So that passes. Moving on to 3A, the regular agenda items. 3A is verbal update on the department's response to coronavirus. Is that Dr. Eckstein?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As Chief Terrazas mentioned, the department is extremely proactive in trying to protect our members, minimize absenteeism, and provide a robust response to our community. Probably some of the most important changes we've done in terms of safety of our members, we've modified many of our EMS response protocols, starting at dispatch. We changed our dispatch question, so our call takers screen every caller to see if they have known or suspected exposure to a COVID-19 patient, or if they themselves are known or suspected to be positive for COVID-19. Messaging to the field on these dispatches in terms of minimizing exposure of our members and also minimizing the burn rate of PPEs. Our members in the field also have changed their patient care protocol to minimize any procedures that aerosolize the COVID-19 virus, and also notify our hospital partners when they have a high-risk patient that they're transporting. Other major changes we've done, probably the most significant change is we've added a very important diagnostic modality of pulse oximetry. We've added pulse oximeters to all of our basic life support resources. All fire companies and BLS ambulances now have portable pulse oximeters, and this is now a mandatory vital sign on every patient, which improves patient care for all of our patients, but this is particularly critical for COVID-19 patients. Many of them may have life-threatening hypoxia, but you'd be otherwise unable to detect this condition without this diagnostic modality. And finally, as the chief mentioned, we rolled out our telemedicine program last month. So far, it's been very successful. Approximately half of the 911 calls that are transferred to our advanced providers or physicians stationed at MFC have resulted in a no-send category, which means we establish a video link, we assess the caller for any emergent medical condition, and we're able to navigate the patient to either remain at home or clinic appointments or call in prescriptions, which has kept our more available and also minimized the exposure of our members to COVID-19. We're following our metrics very carefully. Our call load is still, EMS call load is still down about 10 to 11%, and our transports are down approximately 35%. And we're keeping a very close eye on these metrics. And thus far, our cumulative efforts have been very, very successful, given a very low rate of a conversion of our members to COVID-19 positive, and also a very, very low absenteeism rate. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? So, no, thank you so much, Dr. Eckstein, for all your work and for the work of all the members of the department. It's been truly exemplary. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Barra, I've noticed that there is another unknown caller with their hand raised. I'm not sure if it's on this particular agenda item or another item, if someone could inquire before we move on.
Letitia, can you inquire who that is? Can you unmute the person with the hand raised and see?
Yeah, yes, President Barra, this is, I don't know if you could hear me, this is Freddie Escobar.
Yes.
I want to speak on behalf of item 3B.
Okay, thank you. So nobody on 3A, so we have 2 on 3B, nobody on 3A. Okay, so can we have a vote on 3A?
Actually, you don't need a vote
because it's a verbal report.
Correct.
So moving on to 3B, which is report by the department on the proposed chief officer minimum requirement modification.
Good morning, Madam Commissioner, Commissioners Julie and Letitia, Chief Everett, Deputy Chief, serving as the Chief of Staff.
Chief Everett, can you lean in a little bit more? We're having difficulty hearing you.
Can you hear me?
That's better.
Better.
Yes, thank you.
Better.
Okay. So in 2014, the Board of Fire Commissioners approved the proposed chief officer's minimum requirements for educational requirements. Within that context, the plan for the educational requirements were to have different levels of degrees at certain time frames. We've been reviewing the requirements and also through an email or from a letter received to the commission and to the department. We've been evaluating whether or not we can amend that original approval that was granted in 2014. The amendment would include the requirement to have the education at the time of appointment versus the time of the exam. Typically, the exams are given, for instance, the assistant chief's exam is coming up. It'll be probably given in July and, or I'm sorry, it'll probably be, the notice will go out in May. The exam will be in June, which will generate a list for us in August. But people would not be appointed from that list until they had the minimum educational requirements as in the report. That list is good, and all lists are good for 2 years. So people that didn't have an educational requirement at the time of the exam that were on the list, they would have additional time to complete those requirements prior to appointment. So what we're asking, we support the idea of having the requirements enacted at the time of appointment versus the time of the exam. We think that that'll increase the pool of people that can take the exam, and by which it'll increase our diversity for that exam pool, the people that are able to take it. So I can answer any questions that you might have. And I also have Chief Rideout with me, who works exclusively with the personnel department on our exam processing. I would ask that the board take a look at this today, because we do need to get the notifications out about the assistant chief's exam as soon as possible to not delay our time slot with personnel department. But that's all I have, if anyone has any questions.
So does this mean that if we don't take the step, that any members who are currently trying to get a BA but haven't gotten a BA would be precluded from being appointed to battalion chief for the life of the list?
Correct. So the way the process is right now, if you don't have the minimum educational requirements for battalion chief's exam, assistant chief's exam, if you don't have those initial, or if you don't have those educational requirements at the time of the application, you would not be eligible to take the exam in the first place. This change would provide members with the opportunity to take the exam, but they would not be appointed to the position until they had the minimum requirements. And that
one quick correction: it's an AA for this cycle for BC.
For BC, yes.
Associate degree, not a bachelor's for the 2020 cycle.
Correct. For AC, it's bachelor's, and for BC, it's associates.
And which test is next? Which test is coming?
We are trying to get the assistant chief's test off the ground as soon as possible. The battalion chief's exam would be noticed in July, and the exam would be given in August, and we would expect a list in November. These time slots are basically working with the personnel department. So as we push back, we actually lose our place in line for other exams in the city. So in order to work through our attrition issues that we anticipate in a couple years, this is where we need to have these exams kind of fall into place in the time slots.
And so, how many people have degrees who are eligible to take the assistant chief's exam?
I don't have that number for you, Commissioner. I don't know who actually will be putting in for the exam, and therefore I can't really gauge who would have the educational requirements. We just have to wait and see who puts in for it.
How many people in the department have bachelor's degrees?
I can get that number for you based on educational bonuses that are issued, but I don't have that number in front of me.
How many assistant chiefs will you need when that time, when the exam is given? Do you know that? Yeah, are you just getting prepared?
Over the course of this list, of this next list, we anticipate that there's going to be 2 assistant chief vacancies, but that number's variable as well because people could leave early. Different things can happen, but right now, based on what we see with the drop report, we anticipate 2 during the life of this list. The next list would be 6. So,
But there will be another exam between that, for that list?
Yes, ma'am. That test would be anticipated to take place in 2022.
How many assistant chiefs do we have in the department?
17.
Uh-huh.
So, and when is this exam scheduled to take place?
So we would notice the exam during the month of May in a few weeks. The exam itself would take place in June, and we would anticipate getting a list in August or so.
So they would have to have it before the notice of the exam is posted, or before they actually sit for the exam?
So as it stands right now, they would need to have it at the time of the posting of the exam in order to take the exam. So they would need to have it now when they put in. If it's voted on and changed, that would provide additional time to secure the necessary educational requirements before they would be appointed or could be appointed. The appointment date could be any time from the life of the list. So that would stretch it out from now to the expiration of the list, which would be in 2022.
Okay. So you're precluding people if they don't have, basically if they don't have the requisite degree, whether it's an AA or a BA, if they don't have it basically now, they won't be promoted to battalion chief or AA until that list expires, which is probably going to be 2022. So for next 2 years.
That's correct. They would not be eligible to take the exam for another 2 years if they don't have it at the time of the announcement or the time of the exam currently.
Okay. So I mean, in 2014 when this came up, I voted for it, but I voted for this imposing this educational requirement with a lot of reservations, knowing that there's well-known, well-documented educational disparities throughout the United States and in the state of California and in the county of Los Angeles. So, you know, African Americans and Latinos do not have the opportunity to get as many degrees as other people do. And so when we imposed this requirement, we knew that. We were cognizant of that, but we nonetheless, we proceeded to impose this requirement, hoping that it would motivate our members to nonetheless go ahead and try to get these educational requirements, because it's, lifelong learning is an important skill for anybody, and certainly for the members of our department. There was always reservations on my part. I believe there was reservations on the part of other people on the commission as well, because we're aware of the educational disparities. So I think that just having a slight modification of, just you can sit for the exam, but you won't be appointed until you actually have achieved that degree requirement, to me is sensible. And so that's what I would recommend, but I'm interested to hear as to what other commissioners have to say about this.
Well, I voted no on the first one because it was a lot of manipulation, a lot of stuff was going on. But once the policy is in place, I believe that we really need to see it through at least one time. We have not had an exam on this particular process to see how this is going to work, how many people will be available, what the diversity will be like. We don't really know because we've never done it yet. And if a person is going to have their bachelor's within the time before 2022, another exam is predicted to be given in 2022. Therefore, they would be ready and prepared to do that. I have time and time again agreed with the president of UFLAC that I'm opposed to changing standards. If we put a standard in place, I want to see it work at least once, try to see if it's going to work or not work. And I've been very opposed to changing the standards that we've already put in place. As President Ibarra remembers, we had 3 or 4 meetings where we discussed this particular issue. I believe that the time that we put into passing the policy, thoroughly discussing it the last time, and finally coming to a decision on it. I believe that actually educational background and improvements and degrees make a difference, because we, at the time we discussed it, we're talking about bulletins being written, policies being developed and written, and that perhaps the training that people would get going through college would help to fine-tune their skills as far as writing and the problem solving and many other things that go on when you go and get a degree, as we all know, because everybody on the commission has a degree or 2 or more. And so I would not support changing the standards at this time, because we have not yet fully vetted the process that we put in place 6 years ago. We need to see, would it work? If it doesn't work, there's not enough people on there. There's not enough diversity. There's not enough people. My concern would be there wouldn't be enough people who had the degrees at that time, and more people would be needed. But I'm confident that the department has 2 people in it who can take an exam. There'll be more than 2 who would take it. Take this test for the upcoming exam. I'm not supportive of changing anything at this time, because, as I said, to me, it's like lowering a standard what we have not even tried to use yet. And I believe that when we make policy, we need to at least try it out before we decide we're going to change it. And so for that reason, I would not support this process of changing anything in it until I see that it doesn't work. And I would try it.
I would agree that it would be a lowering of the standards if we change the standards for when the person gets appointed to that position, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about giving people the opportunity to
No,
sit
but we're
for an
talking
exam.
about there are other jobs and other things in the department that you can't do unless you have that requirement before you start, before you take the test. I want the department to be consistent throughout. I believe that you need to have the requirements before you take the exam. That, I believe, is important.
Madam President, this is Julie Rapish.
Yes.
I just want to remind all the speakers, the commissioners, as well as staff, that they need to announce their identity before they speak, as members of the public who have called in aren't necessarily able to view any of those identities. And so in order for them to know who's providing comment or input, it would be important for each of the speakers to identify themselves so that everyone is made aware of.
Thank you. Good point.
Thank you.
So far,
Yes,
it's been Jimmy Woods Gray and it's been Delia Ibarra, and Chief Everett presented the matter. Chief Everett.
Madam President, Chief Everett again. Commissioner Woods Gray, just I hear your comments. I just wanted to make sure that we made you aware. In 2018, we did have a battalion chief's exam and an assistant chief's exam under the provisions that the board voted on in 2014. So just wanted to make sure you're aware of that.
So at that time, did they have to meet the same requirements as they do now for the one that you're going to give in 2020?
Yes, ma'am. So during those 2018 exams, they were required to have the requirements at the time of the exam. I don't have a specific number of how many people were counted out of that exam or how many people, took the exam, but just wanted to clarify that we have had two exams, at least two exams, under these provisions in the past.
Oh, very good. Then that means that you didn't have any problems getting assistant chiefs. It was assistant chiefs or battalion chiefs?
We had a battalion chief exam and an assistant chief's exam. In the assistant chief's exam in 2018, the requirement was associate's degree. The assistant chief's exam that is coming up this year would be a bachelor's degree. So it goes up to a bachelor's degree for this exam. That would be the one difference in these exams. The reason why I can't give you a number for how many people were impacted by those changes, because I don't know how many people elected not to take the exam or didn't have those requirements because they didn't sign up. So it's hard to give you a specific number as to how many people were impacted by that or not. We believe that these new recommended changes to have it at the time of appointment would logically give people more time to meet these exams and perhaps open up the pool for a greater number of people.
Jimmy Woods Gray, I have a question. Do you still have people on the assistant chief's list that's expiring, and do you still have people on the BC list that would expire whenever?
Chief Everett again. Right now, the list, I'm checking to see, I think they're both expired at this time. Oh, no, wait.
Were there people on the list when it expired?
Hang on one second, ma'am. So yes, ma'am, the battalion chief's exam expired in June, and there were names remaining on the list, and I believe the same stands true for the assistant chief's exam. So to your point, there were names on the list, that took the exam, but I don't know how many more could have been on the list, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. So that really helps me to understand that there were enough people who took the test to fill the vacancy. And I'm not thinking of the people who wish they could have taken the test, because that's another issue.
Yes.
So this is Commissioner Ibarra again. So another observation that I have about kind of the demographics of the department is that we didn't hire for a long period, right, until we started hiring in 2014. So and we've been hiring a lot ever since. But that means that our department is filled by a lot of younger members. So as we have sort of a gap in terms of the people who are now in, if you're becoming a battalion chief or an assistant chief, you're sort of becoming more mid-career to senior level. So then, I just think that demographically that means that you have a different sort of pool than you do for people who are promoting, to AOs or to captains. And so I just think it makes it so that your demographic pool is smaller. It just makes sense to me that it would be smaller, but I don't know if Chief Everett or Chief Terrazas has any observations about that.
Ma'am, I just want to cut off the chief one more time and I'll give it to him, but I just wanted to clarify my earlier statement. This is Chief Everett again. The assistant chief's exam expires in June of this year, and the battalion chief's list expires in September of this year, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Chief Terrazas, because this is about giving you discretion in how you promote members, correct? So
yes, Madam President, this is the fire chief here. Number one, let me say that because of the strong leadership from the commission back in 2014, we implemented these educational requirements. And I can say now in hindsight, it was absolutely the right thing to do. I've seen the increased education levels by the applicants, and I've seen the performance enhanced. I agree that the goals of increased education should not be tampered with. I do think that a larger applicant pool would give me more options. I think more options is always better in terms of trying to select the right person for the right position. In terms of have we done this before, and I thought about the Captain 1 and Captain 2 pay grade advancement, also the Inspector 1 and Inspector 2 pay grade advancement. In those two exams, the person can take the test, but is not appointed until they get the required time in rank. The only difference in this application is that we would require they complete the mandatory education that is required. So we're not changing the standard, we're opening up the ability for more people to apply. And at the end of the day, I want as many people as possible to apply. In 2024, in January, we're going to have a 40% turnover of chief officers. And you don't want to try to fill all those vacancies off of one list. It's better to incrementally put people in position. So when I heard the proposal from both labor organizations, I came to the conclusion it's better for the organization to have as many applicants as possible. And I believe it is the right move for the good of the organization.
Did I understand Chief Everett to say that you would be giving 2 exams, one now and one in 2022, because of those expected vacancies?
Well, yes, ma'am. The list, the test that we give this year, that list will expire in 2022, causing us to have another exam at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had my hand raised for a while. Can I just say a few things?
Of course.
Okay. So just quickly, one is I want to just support Commissioner Woods-Gray. I appreciate all her comments, and I agree with her.
This is Commissioner Glazier talking.
This is Commissioner Glazier talking. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Also, I just want to make a quick correction. The 2018 AC exam was a bachelor's degree, not an AA. So that process did run with a bachelor's degree already for assistant chief. And to Commissioner Woods-Gray's point, it seemed to have worked fine. I hear the concern about not having enough people in the future and wanting more people, and that is why there will be another exam in 2022, giving people an additional 2 years to get their degree requirements sorted out for assistant chief and battalion chief. So I agree with Commissioner Woods-Gray. I think she's on the right track, and that's all I have to say.
Do we have comments from other commissioners? Okay, so moving on to public comments then. We have 2 public comments. The first is from Chief Jamie Moore from the Chief Officers Association. Can we recognize Chief Moore?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, President Ibarra, Honorable Commissioner Ms. Radfish, and other parties who are on this call. This is Assistant Chief Jamie Moore, President of the Chief Officers Association. And I appreciate the discussion on this topic, and I ask that you have an open mind as I make my public comments. First off, I'd like to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on this topic. And as the President of the Chief Officers Association, it is an honor to represent the upper level management of this incredible organization. Our chief officers value the importance of education. We recognize and support the need for higher level studies within the top management positions of the Los Angeles Fire Department. We believe that in 2014, when the Board of Fire Commissioners voted to adopt minimum education requirements as a standard for applicants interested in participating in the chief officer's exam process, that it was a step in the right direction. Please understand, we are not asking to change the standard. We are simply asking that you adjust the timeline in which the standard must be met. This proposal to change the current exam requirements from having to meet the education requirement at the time of a member's application to their time of appointment is very similar to the change we made in our hiring process for entry-level firefighters. The LAFD does not require applicants interested in becoming a firefighter to have an EMT or CPAT at the time of their application, but they are required to have them in order to be selected. This modification was done in an effort to increase the pool of applicants. Our effort to increase the pool of applicants was intended to increase diversity. Similarly, this proposed change is intended to increase the diversity of those applying for the chief officer's position. The COA wants to support our members and is looking to increase the number of qualified individuals who are interested in becoming chief officers. The proposed change came to the COA from officers who are currently represented by United Firefighters of Los Angeles Local 112. We did not seriously consider the proposal until we were several weeks into the COVID-19 pandemic and we saw what was happening to our educational institutions and the impact it was having on our members. We reached out to UFLAC and they asked that we support this issue. So in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in UFLAC, the COA Executive Board and the LAFD administration, specifically the Fire Chief Office, explored what we could do to support our members. We feel that this proposed change is fair and will not compromise this process. See, a lot of our members are obtaining their degrees through online courses. Many of those courses were affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. Our members who were planning on using compensated time off, CTO, were not able to alter their schedules due to the pandemic and the department's cancellation of CTO time. Those attending brick and mortar programs experienced a closure of the institution they were attending and had to change over to online studies. Some of our members cannot make that adjustment for whatever reason. This proposed change would allow these individuals impacted an opportunity to get back on track and complete their education. If this change is not something you're willing to consider, perhaps you might consider postponing the upcoming battalion chief for 4 months in order to accommodate those individuals who were close to completing their degree but could not do so, and they could finally get their commitment done in response to the city.
I apologize, Chief Moore.
Chief Moore,
yes.
You get 2 minutes for public comment. I'm sorry. I think Ms. Gomez is trying to reach you to let you know you've reached your 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much for listening to my public comment. Have a wonderful day. And feliz 5 de Mayo a todos.
Thank you, Chief Moore.
Igualmente.
Igualmente. Now we have a comment from, is it Freddie Escobar from United Firefighters Los Angeles, Local 112.
Good morning. First, I want to make sure I'm being heard.
Yes,
yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right, guys. Good morning, and thank you very much for this opportunity during these very unprecedented times. I'm here today to speak on support of the recommendation that would allow the chief officer's promotional candidate to meet the stated educational requirement prior to their appointment rather than application for the exam. To be very clear, we are not changing the standard. All it is allowing our brothers and sisters from the bargaining unit that I represent to take the test to help with the diversity and the pool for the future of this organization, which I will be around for 10 more years, and a lot of you on the Fire Commission may be stepping down or going on to greater things. So this is something that, in collaboration with the Chief Officers Association, with support of the fire chief, who wants it, leave it better than what he got it, and supports us and the Chief Officers Association. And most definitely will increase the number of qualified applicants, but also go a long way towards promoting the diversity and inclusion goals expressed by our department. By allowing candidates to take the test, this will give them the added motivation of completing their bachelor's degree as a final step to promotion rather than an artificial barrier from even being considered, right? The change of the requirement will aid the department in identifying a diverse group, again, of leaders for our future in the LAFD. And I also want to, when I was doing my research on this, to be president of the United States, there's 2 requirements. And one of them I don't meet, is to be born in the United States, and I serve my country. And the second one is to be age 35. I support the education process of it. I support the requirements. But for this commission to not take into consideration the future leaders of this organization and to allow them to take the test, I just believe that you're doing an injustice to the LAFD. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, so I think I know how this is going to go, but we should have a roll call by each commissioner. Letitia, can you please have a roll call, an individual roll call, please?
Madam President, you need a motion and a second.
Okay.
First, and then a roll call vote.
Do I have a motion? So I will move. This is Commissioner Ibarra, and I'm going to move to approve the modifications to minimum qualifications for the chief officer's position as stated in the department's report to us. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so so now we can have a roll call.
Ibarra,
Yes.
Glazier,
No.
Hara,
Yes.
Ninberg,
No.
Woods Gray,
No.
Okay, so the report or the motion fails. So, okay. So moving on to 3C, which is report by the department on the unmanned aerial systems expanded use in 2020 brush clearance inspection program.
Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning.
Commissioners, and Chief Terrazas. My name is Richard Fields, Battalion Chief, currently assigned to the Fire Marshal's Office, and I serve as LAFD's UAS Program Manager. I'm going to speak to this particular report, specifically to the operation of the drones or the UAS related to policy and procedures that are currently in place, and any questions that are related specifically to the brush, I'll leave to Battalion Chief Patrick Hayden. In summary, our desire to expand the use of UAS has always been the vision of the fire chief to increase the use of technologies to allow us to be more efficient, to be safer, and to simply provide better service to the public. It's been our mission to continue to be innovative, to look for ways to do our jobs better, again, by integrating technology. However, this particular discussion is really driven by the events surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic and the hampering of our normal operations that it has caused. That our inability to put people, our inspectors, into the public as they would normally be has caused, and the diversification of our inspector work staff in supporting other fire department missions has caused our primary goal in the Fire Prevention Bureau for conducting inspections, of which brush clearance are one of them, to fall way behind. Integrating this technology at this point will allow us to protect the public from upcoming brush seasons, that we were able to conduct inspections, getting our inspection numbers back up to near normal by integrating this technology. It also allows us to provide an answer to the council motion about the fire department developing plans and having a response for mitigating and preparing for the upcoming brush season. The discussion around using UAS, obviously from the beginning, and again with the incredible support from the Fire Commission and the fire chief, has been around protecting privacy, about our transparencies, and making sure that the public not only is protected, but in support of these type of technology integrations. And we have done an excellent job in the last 3 years in maintaining the public's trust in the LAFD. In fact, when we piloted inspecting the brush areas with the UAS last year on our public parcels, we were met with 100% approval from homeowners groups, from neighborhood councils, who in fact thought that we were already using UAS to support brush inspections. When we encountered the public, we engaged them openly and talked to them about the technology, showed them how the technology is being used. And again, even with that public display, we were met with 100% support from the people that saw our operations. And that was not more evident than in the 2019 Fire Service Day at Fire Station 88, where a large number of people who live in the brush areas were very impressed by what they saw in the months previous, and we're looking forward to our continued engagement in their communities using this new technology. As part of the report in the discussion, it lists a new assembly bill which provides some clarification for the use of our UAS in operations that are done by non-law enforcement agencies who do have a code enforcement responsibility. And it clears up some of the ambiguity in whether or not the drones can be used, or UAS can be used with or without a warrant, and the areas in which would make it safe for us to continue those operations. And this new assembly bill, or the modifications to it, continue to support our endeavor to further integrate UAS into in this particular case, in our brush inspection plans. I do have, depending on how much time, if you will indulge me, I can share a couple of a brief video for you, just to put some a visual context to what we plan on doing, if you would be interested.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I just realized that in trying to share my screen, only the host can do that. So what I can do, just to, in the consideration of time, I can show those or email that quick footage to you all, unless the host can give me permission to share.
I will try to do that.
But you can make him a co-host?
Yeah, make host. Okay. Chief, you should have access now.
Okay.
Madam President, I also just wanted the record to be clear that the videos will be made part of the record, because anyone who's called in can't see these videos at all. So
I see. Okay, so this will be made part of the record so that the public can review it.
yes.
Okay. So can everyone see the picture that's on my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this just gives you, if there's, just the red lines identify the actual flight plan or flight path of the unmanned aerial vehicle. If you follow the red line, the UAS or the unmanned aerial vehicle can fly a specific flight plan. And as you notice, none of those flight paths go over or engage an actual residence. It only looks at the actual brush that we are inspecting. If you also notice, there are a couple of a black line. It's hard to see it in detail. And the blue markings include points of interest where an actual photo was taken. All this information is public facing. So if there's ever any question about which photo we took, the metadata, which includes the altitude from which it was taken, the angle from which it was taken, can be provided at a moment's notice. And again, this supports our efforts to be transparent to the public. One other thing that I will show you just quickly, if everyone can see the video playing, just let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
So this is an actual view of what the UAS would be taking views of. And again, it's not a wide angle view. It's not looking into people's people's domiciles or private areas. It's specifically looking at the brush area from the angle at which the operator levels the UAS at. The altitude typically that the drone will be flying at will be somewhere in the range of 200 feet, although not out of eyesight of the general public, will be well out of earshot or any audible noise which may disrupt or bother the public unnecessarily. As you watch the video, this zooms into, again, these points of interest, the areas that the inspectors need to see, and this provides a view for the inspector that he or she could not get standing on the ground, which, again, provides much more depth for translating where violations may be, and also allows us collaterally to be able to properly prepare for mitigation in these areas, or if a fire results in that area, we have the information that allows us to put in better mitigation plans. I will stop sharing my video now. Those are the only two examples that I have. Again, in the interest of time, thank you for allowing me to share some of those images. I will take any questions that you have at this time.
No questions, but thank you. I thought this was, even though we have an abbreviated calendar during this lockdown, I thought this was really important because it is even though it's a common sense expansion, it is still an expansion of the mission of the UAS that we had originally planned. But it's very common sense. And when we gave the department the authority to expand or to use UAS, we agreed that that every time the mission of the department's mission with regards to UAS would be expanded, it would come back to the commission so that we could, in the name of transparency and so that the public is aware that we are expanding the mission of it. I think this is a very common sense expansion because brush clearance is a priority, and also because we're going into fire season and we don't know how long the pandemic is gonna stay with us, and we need to do everything we can to be prepared to deal with both of these things when they become emergencies and with any others that may arise. So thank you so much to you, Chief Fields, and also to the department for continuing to innovate and think about how we can continue to be prepared for all the emergencies that this department is facing at the moment. And this is, brush clearance and fire season is always going to be with us, it seems, whether there's a pandemic or not. So thank you for that.
Yes,
so any of the commissioners, any comment?
I had a question, I guess. I'm not sure if Chief Fields could answer it, but
this is
Chief
Commissioner Woods Gray speaking, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
that's okay.
getting used to the new process. Jimmy was great. Thank you. Chief Hayden is online. I noticed on Facebook that we were going to change the date for the notices for brush collection, brush clearance. And I was just wondering to know if a copy was sent to the homes of the people who need to have the brush clearance so that they get the notice in writing, because many people are not on Facebook.
And Chief Fields or Chief Hayden, this is Julie Raffish again. If you can just respond very succinctly to Commissioner Woods Gray's question, because it's sort of straying from the agenda item. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, President Ibarra, members of the board, Fire Chief Terrazas, City Attorney Raffish, and all the participants. This is Patrick Hayden, and to your question specifically, I will say that I believe I answered that via email. However, I'll expand on that answer. And again, Patrick Hayden, I am the battalion chief over the industrial commercial section of the Fire Prevention Bureau, which includes our brush clearance unit and our brush clearance efforts. And so while it would have been ideal to be able to mail 140,000 responses with regard to the COVID-19 and our aggressive handling of how best to provide for brush clearance in light of this global pandemic, we chose to use social media, emails for those individuals that are in the very high fire hazard severity zone who have, in fact, actually registered as participants in our vegetation management system. We just felt that given the time parameters, the cost association, it would be better to look at other means by which we could outreach to ensure that we were allowing the public that additional time. So just real briefly, what we are doing now in light of COVID-19, we are implementing a system whereby we will still start May 1st with our inspectors going out and looking for those individuals who have actually cleared their brush. It's called a cleared by owner, or CBO. So as of May 1st, our inspectors are engaging in inspections specifically looking for cleared by owner. Thereafter, in June 1st, we will start to go out and identify those individuals who may not have passed. So we're still giving the parcel owners an additional 30 days from May 1st to June 1st to clear their brush without any penalties or any threat of violations. That gives us the ability to stay on task with our brush clearance efforts starting May 1st, however, giving the public additional time because of the additional financial burdens that they're now potentially experiencing, the fact that all individuals were involved in a safer at home sort of posture that would have included to some degree, our contractors, and not knowing exactly how that would potentially impact parcel owners, we felt it was best to push back this time period to June 1st. So again, those efforts have hopefully adhered to the idea of what the CDC was recommending, what COVID-19 was presenting, and ideally our support of all parcel owners and citizens of Los Angeles to ensure that they have the additional time and opportunities to clear their brush. So again, we were not able to send out the mailing, but we did look at other innovative ways in which we could engage technology to assist with that effort. And of course, with telephone inquiries, we've been able to address and clear up what the points were here.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much.
This is also consistent with, a lot of the other extensions that other parts of government have been providing to the public. It seems like it's not always practicable when, the pandemic came upon us to mail everybody a notice saying that we were granting extension. And we just did it and then provided a public notice. All right.
The only thing that happened is that it creates a lot of confusion among our citizens who are in those areas where the brush has to be collected, cleared, and so that was why. And I asked the question because I don't have any brush, but I have lots of people calling me who have brush.
Mm-hmm.
Madam President,
yes?
This is a little beyond the scope of this particular agenda item at this point.
Do we have any other comments from commissioners? Okay, so now can we vote on the matter?
It appears
one moment.
A public comment for this item before the commission takes a vote.
Correct. It just came up. One moment, please.
Okay.
And the number that you're looking for is the 8105. And I'm going to unmute.
Okay.
Are you, caller, are you calling to give public comment on agenda item 3C, the unmanned aerial systems?
Negative.
Okay.
Public comment at the end.
Okay. So
general public comment. Okay. One moment. Okay, he'll be there for you for general public comment.
So do we have any public comments on this matter, or that was the only one left?
That's the only hand I see raised.
Okay. Okay. So can we have a vote on this? Can somebody move?
Commissioner Glazier, I move to adopt the recommendation for item 3C.
A second.
Second is Commissioner Woods-Gray. Okay, great. Can we have a voice vote or a roll call?
Roll call vote. Yes.
Ibarra.
Aye.
Glazier.
Yes.
Hara. Let me make sure I unmute you. I have to scroll down. Oh, yes. Hara. Okay, Commissioner Hara.
Aye.
Thank you. Ninberg.
Yes.
Woods-Gray.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So moving on to public comment, and it sounds like we have one public comment. Can we go to the public commenter, and can the public commenter please identify themselves?
Yes, this is Freddie Escobar, president of UFLAC.
Okay, you have 2 minutes, as you're aware.
President Ibarra, my question is, I'd like to have a audio copy of this Zoom meeting sent to my email at UFLAC. If I could get that.
Okay.
Once
that is it.
Once the audio is
I just don't know the process.
Once the audio received back, Freddie, this is Leticia Gomez from the teleperformance, then I upload it on YouTube. But just
on
so
YouTube.
You're aware,
okay.
I will connect with you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other public comments? Okay, no, so we could adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. This is Commissioner Glazier.
All in favor? Aye.
Do we need a second?
Should have a second.
Okay. So,
Rebecca Ninberg, Commissioner Rebecca Ninberg, second.
Thank you.
okay, so all in favor? Aye.
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 Sounds like we all agree. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for joining us remote.